The state's military strikes terrorists in Sokoto State in a collaborative effort with the Nigerian government. Warns of more strikes if killings continue. Federal government says it will commence implementation of the Nigerian Tax Act and Nigerian Tax Administration Act on January the 1st amidst controversy over gazetted copy. Hello and welcome to Politics Today, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Jeffrey Ozonga. I'm sure you've been following developments across our country, but we're still in the spirit of the Yuletide. It's called Boxing Day. So Merry Christmas in arrears for those who didn't have the opportunity for us to say Merry Christmas to you and want to wish you a very prosperous New Year. Now, today, we're going to be looking at a lot that has to do with national security as to what has played out so far, say in the last 24 hours. But before that, let's bring you up to speed as to the development that we've always been anticipating on January the 1st, which has to do with the implementation of the new Tax Act. The chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, Mr. Taiwo Yedele, says that the federal government will commence the implementation of the Nigerian Tax Act and the Nigerian Tax Administration Act on January the 1st as planned. He was speaking after a meeting with President Bola Tinubu, which included the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, that's the FIRS, Mr. Zaka Didiji, and the chairman of the National Tax Policy Implementation Committee, Mr. Joseph Tegbe. Mr. Yedele welcomed the position of the National Assembly on allegations about certain alterations in the gazetted copy.
To give an update about the implementation of the tax reform laws. As you're already aware, there are 4 of those laws, and 2 of them have already commenced, and that's the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Act and the Joint Revenue Service Establishment Act commenced on the 26th of June 2025. The remaining 2 laws, that's the Nigerian Tax Act and the Nigerian Tax Administration Act, are scheduled to commence on the 1st of January 2026. We welcome the statement by the National Assembly, House of Representatives Committee today on the findings and the work around the allegations about alteration. The federal government is committed to working with the National Assembly if and when any action is required. And therefore, they plan to commence the new law, the 2 remaining new laws on the 1st of January 2026, we go ahead as planned on schedule because these reforms are designed to provide relief to the Nigerian people. Bottom 98% of workers will see either no PAYE tax or lower taxes to be paid. Small businesses, 97% of them will be exempted from corporate income tax, VAT, withholding tax, and large businesses will see a drop in the taxes that they pay. The whole idea being to try and promote economic growth, inclusivity, as well as shared prosperity for our people. So we're actually excited at the progress we're making, and we're looking forward to January 1st, 2026.
So as far as the tax laws are concerned, the remaining 2, as is put it, will kick off on January the 1st because there's been a lot of controversy as to those alterations. But away from that, the United States President Donald Trump says the U.S. forces have conducted powerful and deadly strikes against Islamic State militants in northwestern Nigeria after he warned the group to stop killing Christians. Those are the allegations he laid in the country. The U.S. Military Africa Command said the strike was carried out in Sokoto State in coordination with the Nigerian authorities and killed multiple ISIS militants. A video posted by the Pentagon shows at least 1 projectile launched from a warship. A U.S. defense official said the strike targeted multiple militants known as ISIS camps, although it was not explicitly stated if the strike were those that hit the terrorists in Sokoto State. Meanwhile, those airstrikes were indeed confirmed by the federal government through a press statement issued by the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The statement explains that the Nigerian authorities are actively engaged in structured security cooperation with international partners, including the United States, to tackle ongoing threats of terrorism, violent extremism, and that partnership has resulted in precision strikes targeting terrorist groups in Nigeria's northwest. All right, so that's a missile from a warship. There's a lot not quite clear, but what we know about this strike is that it was carried out by the United States military in collaboration with the Nigerian government. Ambassador Tuga was on our program earlier today. He said Nigeria provided that intelligence. We know it happened in Jabo district and in Sokoto state, I think in Tambuwa local government area. So there are a couple of things, but when the pressers or the statements were railed at, both from the U.S. and the Nigerian government, there were a couple of concerns that were raised as far as this statement is concerned. Now, I have two gentlemen who are competent to speak on the issue. A security consultant and the former general will be joining me in just a moment to explore this conversation around what is a new turn of events as far as the fight against terrorism is concerned, now that the American government has gotten involved. But let's bring you other stories on our political roundup.
President Bola Tinubu has praised the Federal Ministry of Finance for successfully closing a $1.26 billion financing for the execution of the Phase 1, Section 2 of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, marking a significant milestone in the delivery of what is termed Africa's most ambitious and transformative infrastructure project. According to the statement from the presidency, President Tinubu applauded the Ministries of Finance and Works and the Debt Management Office for working together on the transaction, adding that the federal government will continue to explore creative financing to fund critical projects across the country. The defense headquarters is assuring Nigerians that the military will continue resolved to sustain peace and security across Nigeria's north-central region. The commander, Armored Corps Bauchi Major General Umar Abubakar, said that days when he represented the Chief of Defense Staff, General Luremi Oluyede, during an operational visit and Christmas luncheon for the troops of Joint Task Force Operation enduring peace in Jos, Plateau State. Aside from commending the troops, he urged them to remain vigilant while assuring Nigerians of improved security in the region. Governor Diko Rado of Katsina State has commissioned the renovated and remodeled quarters at Corporal Below Quarters, CBQ, at Nasinta Barracks of the Nigerian Army, Katsina. The governor performed the ceremony while he joined Christian community to celebrate this year's Christmas. In his address, the governor appreciated the 17th Brigade for their efforts in safeguarding the lives of people in the state, attributing the peace recorded to the devotion of the troops and other security personnel. To Cross River State, where Governor Basi Otu signed the $961 billion 2026 appropriation bill into law, describing it as a commitment to inclusive growth, social stability, and economic transformation. The ceremony held at Government House, Calabar, had the Speaker of the State House Assembly, Albert Ayandem, and members of the House Committee on Finance and Appropriation in attendance. Governor Otu explained that the budget prioritizes capital development with major investment in infrastructure, education, healthcare, energy, and social protection. It's aimed at unlocking economic opportunities and improving the well-being of citizens, just as he commended the House of Assembly for its diligence and transparency, noting that collaboration between the executive and the legislature will ensure effective implementation.
Welcome back. The United States President Donald Trump had made a promise that he will strike if the government doesn't act as quickly as possible. And the framing is to the protection of persecuted Christians. That has generated a lot of controversy as to whether or not there's Christian genocide. There has been some diplomatic conversation for a long time, narrative and counter-narrative. But what is a fact right now, that American bombs have dropped on Nigerian soil in collaboration with the Nigerian government. Now, press releases were made, and there were a couple of things that was being noted. Well, let me bring in my guests who will explore this conversation and make sense, because they are the ones who understand these things a lot more deeper. Onyekachi Adekoya is a security consultant and MD Aqualine Intelligence and Defense Consulting. He joins us right here in our Lagos studio. Mr. Adekoya, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And in our Abuja studios, we have Major General John Enencha. He's a retired Major General joining us from our Abuja studio. General, thank you so much for coming on the program. Compliments of the season. I wanted to be sure I can hear you, General.
Yes, so Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Fantastic. All right, General, I'll come to you in just a moment. I didn't say compliments of the season to you, Mr. Adekoya, so compliments of the season. Let me start with you, Mr. Adekoya. Trump has made good his promise, and I'm sure that you've seen all the press statements that have been made. The United States government was quite specific in what they did, and saying their own commander-in-chief issued, and they thanked the Nigerian government for the collaboration. On the other side, when we saw the release by the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there were no specifics, but there were confirmation to the fact that there was a joint intelligence sharing in that sense in this effort. Now, what do you make of what is playing out right now? Because there are several commentaries for and against as to what has happened in the last, say, maybe 16 hours or more.
Okay, so I'll start from your opening statement to say that President Donald Trump has made good on his promise. The question is, has he really made good on his promise? Because from the reports gotten so far, we are not sure what was hit. We are not sure what was the operational objective they set out to achieve. We are not sure if it was a hit and pray operation or a hit and miss, because we've not seen a damage assessment. If going by the reports, the corporation suggests that the Nigerian government provided intelligence and coordinated the strikes, and the Americans did do the strikes, at least the Americans should provide us some damage assessments. Let us know who was the target or who were the target, how many people were killed, what equipment was destroyed, what is the systemic review of the scene of action, so that we can know that, yes, the U.S. has made good on its promise. So for now, my comments will just lie strictly on what is known. As of today, we're not sure what system was fired. If it was a Tomahawk missile, if it was a drone, which of the missiles from the drone was fired, which systems or platforms were deployed, from where were they launched, we have no information. If you look at in the last 3 days, we found a bit of a discord in the tune between the Nigerian government and the U.S. government. On the one hand, there's been additional visa restriction slapped and immigration restriction slapped on Nigerians, which would suggest that the diplomatic spat is continuing. Just few hours following, we had a bomb blast in Maiduguri. Another few hours following, we had action purportedly in Sokoto, where we're still asking for the evidence on the ground. So if the government see there's coordination, it doesn't look like it, because the comments coming from President Trump doesn't in a large way align with the comments coming from Pete Hegseth. You know, so there are a lot of things yet not known. It's still a developing story. The people within the area are not sure or clear on what has happened. So I think that if you follow the statements further, when they say more to follow, I'm hoping that it's not more uncertainty that would follow if the U.S. government is going to make good on a promise. I mean, we're all for cooperation. So for me to assess, I'm saying that based on empirical evidence on ground, the Jabo area is an agrarian community, which is largely peaceful. If there was a target opportunity that presented itself there, and you had to coordinate pinpoint accurate strike within that area, at least we should be told that there was some credible target within the area, even if so. Geoffrey, as we sit down here, there's still a lot not known. And if we go by social media reports, you can't, even the reports doesn't show a crater. You can't see the impact. There's no damage assessment report, like I said. And the U.S. government and the Nigerian government are not providing concise information. So that for me is a challenge.
Yeah, General, let me bring you in, General, on this one. Mr. Adekoya has made very important point. So I want to read one of the line based on what he raised. The very first paragraph, the last part of the first paragraph of the statement, the initial statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says, this has led to precision hits on terrorist targets in Nigeria by airstrikes in the northwest. They were not even specific as the states It was even the American government that told us it's Sokoto State, and now we're hearing it's Jabot District. What do you make of the nuances in terms of language narrative of both governments? What exactly is going on here that we're not clear about?
What I can see clearly from here is that President Trump presented his narrative based on the warning he issued to justify and confirm it. And then the narrative from our foreign affairs is also to justify the standards they have taken, as it were, on diplomatic action, on coming to agreement to cooperate and then carry out the operation in Nigeria. And of course, it may be communication gap between the exchange of information or information sharing or intelligence sharing that might have affected the difference, what you are noticing or what the people are noticing in the gap between what was told the world by the President of America and what came out from our foreign affairs. So it can be a communication gap, and then presentation, method of presentation, strategic communication, and effective communication could have been the problem or the issue. Otherwise, from what I saw from early hours of today, from the comments that people in that area made through the media, some say they saw the crater. They saw the signs that, you know, there was actually an attack, a bomb or whatever that dropped in their vicinity. Some even call it drones. So from that, I think we can classify it as a B type of information, B2, that is to a large extent reliable. Just like the previous speaker said, you are yet to get confirmation before you can now come out and then take your stand and say, look, this thing is actually credible or whatever. But for me, for walking the talk by the President of America and Nigeria also walking the talk by cooperating and sharing information for this strike to have happened, I think is worth commending. And there is hope that if the partnership continues, we will go a long way in addressing this issue of insecurity, particularly in the areas that are hotspots, northwest, northeast, among others. So that is my take on what happened early hours of this morning in Sokoto.
Mr. Atiko, let me come to you. Now, I try to read exactly what they are saying. Dwelling on these statements for now, the Department of War, this is Pete Hegseth, who is a secretary in that department, is always ready. So his words were, so ISIS, those were his words, found out tonight on Christmas, more to come. Now, for you, this is not specific enough, right? My question is there a strategy in this, in what they are doing?
Yeah, geopolitically, there's a clear strategy. There's a messaging campaign, and which I don't think is for Nigeria. If you look at the geopolitical angle to it, the AES, the alliance states, have their axis to deal with. And some of the armed criminal groups like Lakoroa that's operating, Ansaru within that general area, have seeped in from the Sahel into that area. So you can say, if you say it's ISIS, I mean empirically, really, we don't have on the ground within that specific area enough ISIS enclave to claim that it's an ISIS credible target. So there's a lot of gaps in what we're hearing. So yes, we can say, okay, maybe there's some strategy to it, which is to message, for example, to say that within the West African region, even though you are aligned to Russia, that's for the air state, if America finds a credible target, they can launch an attack, a surgical pinpoint attack within. So if that's the messaging, perhaps, maybe there's a point to that. If also the fact that, you know, in great power politics, you have to counterbalance influence, basically. So if this is America's taking a claim within West Africa, you know, they had a base in Niger, they had some presence in Chad, I think they have a bit of some presence in Ghana, and now they're having to limit themselves to the coastal region. There's some strategy to it. You must follow what's happening in Venezuela with the blockade of Venezuela. Venezuela is not the key target. The Chinese interest is because bulk of Venezuela fuel and oil cargo goes to... So if you blockade the Gulf of Guinea and blockade Venezuela, and then, of course, you have your influence in Western Asia, then the overarching strategy is to placate Chinese influence or Chinese interest. So if that is the messaging, then perhaps. But if it's a hard-on military target, I would say I'm not impressed. Because the U.S. is a great power. Coming to deal with Black Kurawa in northwest Nigeria, for me, it's a waste of time. The Nigerian military has the wherewithal. In the last 15 years, we have been begging cap in hand for armaments and equipment to deal with these idiots once and for all. The U.S. has been stalling. So if you tell me now that AFRICOM, with its base in Djibouti, will come and fly a mission into Sokoto to hit an onion field, according to reports we have so far, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed at all.
So, let me take you to the general on this one. It looks like, I was speaking with somebody before I came on air, said this is more symbolic than defining. I've heard a lot of language as far as this is concerned. General, let's come to, it looks like we've agreed that we have a common enemy. How we want to get this enemy killed is a problem. And the beginning of the controversy of how we want to get this enemy killed is the framing. Is the U.S. framing this as genocide against Christians going to help in the long run, or this going to maybe not help in the long run? Because I've heard Islamic clerics already speaking and telling the federal government to halt the collaboration.
Strategically speaking, at that level, U.S. have come up with, I will call it an accusation, against Nigeria that there is genocide. And the government has been defending that it is not true, that there's no genocide, that all religions, whether Christian, Muslim, non-Muslim, they are all involved in this death or whatever, casualties. When you look at it in that way, it may not at the long run help, because obviously it will cause something like division of interest, division of everything you can talk about. So I am saying that the way it is being approached now, of course there were differences. There were the U.S. was almost refusing to agree that the thing is not genocide, and then the government is saying no, there is no genocide. Now they have come to a meeting point. Otherwise, there wouldn't be agreement that let us allow you to come to our aid in quote, or let us work together and tackle this menace. So any way you look at it, of course, the problem is already created. People are talking about locally that, look, it is not true. And then, but I'm happy for the cooperation of the general populace because of the situation we are in. Because whether you like it or not, it will definitely cause us human beings and adherents of the various religions, they may not say it out, but you may see the reaction, if not now, but later. And that is what I can see and say now. But the appeal is that let all the religious groups, the Christians and the Muslims, accept the situation that we have all seen. Now look at recently in Maiduguri, the mosque was attacked and 5 people killed. Now if you balance that one up, but when you now look at numbers, I think that is what the Americans are capitalizing on. The numbers, the statistics and all that. So it is true that there's division, and there will be, whether you like it or not. We are human beings, spiritual adherents, Christians and Muslims and all that, but it is just by way of appealing to ourselves to come together and understand the situation that we are in now, and then we move forward. Thank you.
There are lots of experts. Let me come to you, Mr. Adekaya. You are in the intelligence community, and I want to dwell on this framing issue because it seems not to go away. I was listening to Ambassador Tuga this morning, and he seemed to say he had a conversation, first 19 minutes, another 5 minutes with Marco Rubio. And one of the things they had as conversation was post-strike statements as to what this is all about. It looks like all that fell apart because Peter Hegseth said the president was clear last month the killing of innocent Christians in Nigeria or elsewhere must end. In the official statement by President Donald Trump, he says tonight, at my direction as Commander-in-Chief of the United States, launched a powerful and deadly strikes against ISIS terrorist camp in northwest Nigeria, who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years, even centuries. If you go to the federal government, you see the federal government say Nigeria reiterates that all counterterrorism efforts are guided by the primacy of protecting civilian lives, safeguarding national unity, and upholding the rights and dignity of all citizens, irrespective of faith or ethnicity. So you can see the discordant tune, despite the diplomatic conversation. How will this help or not help us to get this vicious element out of our spaces? Because this looks like a big inhibition, even among governments, not to talk about citizens.
So that's why we must qualify it carefully. Donald Trump has political leverage he wants to gain with his home base, which is why he put the message, Christian genocide, and then the terrorists which were killed, Merry Christmas to them. That's a bit of a play on word. So what is important to Donald Trump, it's a win, at least at this moment for him. On the operational level, let me give you some context. Nigeria gained independence in 1960. The relationship between Nigeria and the U.S. has been a bit frosty. The U.S. did not provide us armament during the Biafra War. It is on record. Our relationship didn't even improve with the U.S. until 1978, when Jimmy Carter came here, and then we did the presidential system in 1979. Nigeria has been under sanction by the U.S. from 1993, thereabout, to about 1999, even coming into the democratic dispensation. It is also on record that then President Goodluck Jonathan was heavily after certain armaments that would have helped us nip these issues in the bud. The Leahy law was used as a convenient excuse to block us from even what we paid for. Now we get the Super Tucano, all thanks to President Trump, but then you get the Tucano with limitations. The Americans will tell you where to fire, where you cannot fire, and then when you come for armament restock, they also you need to present them an audit of where did you use the armament. So, I mean, I listen to Sheikh Gumi, I'm not a fan, but he made a valid point to say that you don't need concentration risk. If China will give us the armament, we are all at this stage for dealing with the issue decisively. So if Christian genocide is the true and genuine concern of the Americans, I'm saying I'm not impressed. President Trump has reported that the United States spent close to $350 billion supporting the war in Ukraine. You cannot quantify how much America has sent in support of Israel. So if the U.S. is truly concerned about Christian genocide in Nigeria, open your wallet, please, by all means. Advance armaments to us. Nigerian military in Africa is very competent. Give us the ammunition we're asking for. If don't give us, allow us purchase it. So you can't, say in the one hand you are truly concerned, in the other hand you are making geopolitical statements to counterbalance and counter-react to Russia and Chinese influence off of the Gulf of Guinea, and we're not seeing anything tangible. How many terrorists were killed, Geoffrey? That's the question I'm asking.
We don't know that yet. But,
those are the issues.
We'll take a break. When we come back, I'm going to switch the conversation a little bit, because there's also the suspicion of attrition, which is some of the things you have raised in your nuance. And some of the conversations we're hearing among Nigerians as far as this killings or this targeted precision target, as it's called, is concerned. But more of it has to do with what we're doing here to secure and safeguard our people. We'll be back after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're discussing the American or U.S. strike on Nigerian soil that took place some hours ago in Jabo district in Sokoto state of Nigeria. And both the American government has made the statement, the Nigerian government has confirmed that they provided intelligence to take out these terrorists. They call it precision strike. My guest, former Major General John Enenche, retired, joining us from our Abuja studios. Also, Mr. Onyeka Chiadeko is a security consultant, the MD Aquiline Intelligence and Defense Consulting in our Lagos studio. General, let me come to you. Do you think that, because sometimes it looks like America is saying, let's backtrack a bit. You know, we're talking about what just happened a few hours ago, but let's backtrack how we got here in the first place. The reason why we got here, perhaps why we got here, is to the effect that America feels, that's the impression we get, the Nigerian government is not doing enough. In fact, as a matter of fact, when this strike happened, citizens did not know. It was the release by the American president that made us know that there was a strike. In fact, the People's Democratic Party had released a statement that the communication of the government is ineffective. That why is it the federal government, why is it the American government that informed our own citizens that there was a strike in Nigeria instead of the federal government doing that on behalf of telling the citizens that this happened? Where I'm going to with all of this, do you think that between when this conversation started and now that the strike happened, the Nigerian government has shown commitment enough? Because it feels like the American government wouldn't have struck if Nigerian government has shown commitment. I may be wrong, but what's your reading?
My take is straightforward, in the sense that when President Trump said that if nothing is done to protect the Christians in Nigeria, he will come gun a-blazing. And I recall that almost immediately, the Nigerian government packaged a team with the National Security Advisor, service chiefs, among others. And they went and began to dialogue. I believe and I know that that should have been the first step which was taken. After that, American delegation also came to Nigeria to continue with the discussion on the way forward. All this were done. Following that closely, a delegation again came, parliamentarians came, visited places like Benue and all that, among others. I feel that with all that put together and what played out up till early hours of this morning, there must have been a lot of exchange of ideas, sharing of strategies on how to tackle this common enemy of this country. For me, Nigerian government did enough to ensure that, they come to an agreement, and this is the relationship and partnership that we have agreed with them now. For me, they have done enough. And to go further, they should do more than that by sustaining this relationship and this partnership. So that is my own analysis based on what has played out since President Trump gave a warning that, look, do this because of course he was also made to understand that it is not only Christians particularly, but other religious people from other religions, other zones were affected. And we are all witnesses to this in this country. So they have done enough. That is what I can contribute in this regard. And I can say that, look, I commend both parties, the Americans and the Nigerians, for coming up with this template now, which I suppose we should sustain until we achieve our aim of cleansing this country of people who don't want to live. Thank you.
Let's interpret what has happened. For the layman, somebody said, if you don't do, I will act. And then conversations ensued to the point of collaboration. So is it that at the end of the collaboration, what happened in terms of I will act means let's act together, or I will act because you're not acting? What is this?
So you're asking a difficult question. Somebody said, if you don't do, I will act. It's a matter of jurisdiction. If I come and say, Jeffrey, if you don't do in your house, I will act, what am I saying? So it's a matter of jurisdiction in that case. Now, to the action taken, let's even leave the conjecture of, if you don't act. So we say it's a corporation. Now, under international law, there's no international law broken to with that Nigeria called for the strike, as the Nigerian government has said. What I have a problem is, if you say this is the problem, how do you go about solving it? Surgical pinpoint strikes will not solve the problem. Even the Americans have said kinetic force alone would not solve the problem. What is our real problem in Nigeria today? Persistent ISR, persistent intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. That's what we lack. We lack the saturation capability to persistently survey our territorial grounds in Nigeria. What's the other critical thing we like? Reconnaissance attack. that when you are persistently surveying, a target opportunity presents itself, and you can strike immediately as the opportunity presents itself, and it's a precision-based attack. So what are the things we need? We need platforms. We need surveillance platforms. We need unmanned aerial vehicles that are armed. That's what we need. We have drones being trained already. We have the troops on the ground. We cannot, yes, dominate everywhere. But are we sitting idle? No. Remember, Geoffrey, that we have made a former chief of defense staff now become Minister of Defense. Let me tell you, that is a statement of intent. It means that we are now taking a war-fighting footing, and we are going to begin to surge, and I've said this repeatedly, personnel, equipment, and all that we need to deal with these issues decisively. So if we are cooperating, Geoffrey, cooperation should be qualified. The Americans, as they have been doing, but this time without restrictions, should provide us ISR. They were flying drones and mapping the enclaves of the bandits. They did that for some time, using a military contractor, according to reports. So who did we share the information with? The Americans will claim that sometimes in the past, they've shared information with Nigerians, but the information got out of hand one way or the other. We're not sure. Geoffrey, there are a lot of moving parts of this. If we say that Nigeria coordinated and called for that attack, was there any error in the intelligence provided by the Nigerians? That's one side to it. But I don't want to get into some of that. I'm saying that in terms of cooperation, we recently operationalized a cooperation agreement to create a joint desk where Nigeria and the U.S. will cooperate, which is part of the fallout of the meeting between the NSA, TOCO, and the rest with the U.S. counterpart. So that desk, the agreement was reached 2024. It has now been operationalized. So we've gone into an operational relationship with the Americans. What we don't have for a fact is, what did we agree with the Americans in that operational agreement? What is the part of the Americans? What is our own part? That is what we're asking now. So we know who is doing what is moving. But to say that the U.S. will station a ship off of the Gulf of Guinea and be lobbing missiles blindly or with intelligence into Nigeria, it will not solve the problem.
You've made a very strong point, as though you looked into my note. Let me send the question to General. For those who are, they just object to anything America on their soil, perhaps based on suspicion and track record of how it ends. How far should Nigeria allow the American government into our spaces in terms of, to what extent can we allow them to help us?
For me, as long and as much as they can do, because we have been over this issue for about 2 decades now. And of course, people have suggested in the past, even during the time of Obasanjo, that we should get cooperation, we should get help from somewhere. We have a lot of issues that we are managing. Are you talking about corruption? Are you talking about, so many things? And now we have a party, will I call it a third party, that say, let us now come in, and we have agreed with them. For me, as long as they can, they provide the cooperation support, and then we now sit down within this period and then put our house in order security-wise on how to do our indigenous homeland security. We need to do that. That's why at this point I will now appeal to all the various levels, local government, state government, to take up so that we can now have a smooth transition at the end of all this, if I thought there will be an end. Otherwise, I believe a cooperation that is giving us positive results from my own perspective, from my own sense of judgment, militarily and otherwise, that there should not be a time limit, because I see it being a long-run effort. Why am I saying so? A former Chief of Army Staff, Buratai, predicted that it's going to take about 2 decades. General Oyilola, still serving, when he did that so many, and we have seen it in other parts of the world. There was a place I went for a training in let me mention it, Pakistan, to brainstorm with them some years ago, 2018. And it took them a long time before they got to where they got to as of 2018. It's not something that you can just finish over. It's not a 2 years, 1 year issue at all. Because as we speak, I can tell you, by way of experience that, look, some of them, they sympathizers with the terrorists. Amongst us, those are the people that we also to clean up. We need cleaning of that, of our home and all that. And it can still be done, and it should still be done with the cooperation of the Americans. There's a psychological effect in all this, that they are there. So we don't need to be ashamed. We don't need to be proud for any reason. Look at us. We now went to other countries and we did so well and came back, and in our own land. So I will not suggest that we put a time that let us do 2 years, 3 years to know. When when it is clean, when the criminality, the criminality is and comes to an acceptable standard in the society, we all know, and then we now continue from that point, because all the states, like I say, I will advise local governments and all should begin to build their structures. Now we talked about drone. We experimented the use of drone in a locality somewhere for 6 months. All the criminals, terrorists, bandits, they all vanished from that place in a part of Benue State. And these are not lethal drones. These are just surveillance drones that we use to locate them. Then we now give intelligence to the military and other security agencies, and then we now clear them. So with that one, and we didn't give a time limit, it's about 6 months on the doors from May till now, nothing happening there again. So it is not advisable, and I will not support the idea of that. Let us give the Americans, let us make them time-bound. No, when you start seeing peace, restoration of security, it will be clear. You don't need to be told. And at that moment, they may not want to be expending their resources, on Nigeria any longer. So I don't suggest that we, as a government or as a people, begin to push them out or begin to encourage them.
Mr. Dekwe, let me bring. Do you agree with the general as to timeline, level of access to, how far they can come because of the natural or usual suspicion of their real intent or their broader intent in terms of whether this is altruism or there's a broader intent, because even in Freetown there's no free meal?
No, clearly. Every country must define what is in it. In international politics, it's all about national interests. As you know, President Donald Trump is very transactional. The question is, what is in it for the Americans? Because he's also said that far too long Americans just doed away money. Remember, the U.S. over the last how many years has, on the average, been the single largest donor to the Nigerian economy. I think about $8 billion thereabouts. So if he wants leverage for some of his investment and we need the help, why not? I am not against the corporation. I'm saying that the merrier, the merrier. But if the largest economy, one of the great, we're now in a multipolar world, one of the greatest power on the world, the United States, wants to cooperate, collaborate, and assist Nigeria, it should be both quantitative and qualitative. We should see it, we should be able to touch it, we should feel it. This ghost mode attack off of the Gulf of Guinea doesn't suffice for me. There are information and discussions at certain strategic national level we cannot discuss on air, but just frequent the MOD, the Ministry of Defense. You will clearly know what Nigerian military needs. We don't have a personnel problem. We do not have a morale problem. We have an equipment problem. To prove to you that it was an equipment problem, remember when then President Goodluck Jonathan brought in machineries from South Africa. Very quickly, less than 3 months or so, they did a good job on these idiots we have disturbing the Northeast. So the problem is not a serious problem for a great power like America to be harbing. No, that's not what we need. The Nigerian army needs the capacity. Thankfully, we're seeing some progress. So maybe that's what the Major General is talking about, that there's cooperation. There's a willingness to sell us ammunition. So allow the Americans sell to us. Let Turkey, let Israel remove the restriction. Let Nigeria be able to buy armaments and equipment from just about anybody. And that's when I will say that clearly and truly that there is clear cooperation. Because I also don't want to take out from the fact that even in Liberia and Sierra Leone, yes, the Americans did do about $100 million thereabout. We did also see some restrictions on their part. Even in the height of the Boko Haram insurgency, when intelligence was being shared by the Americans with Nigeria, some military commanders will tell you that it was not It was not all Uhuru. So I'm saying that if President Donald Trump is sincerely and genuinely concerned about Christian genocide, then for the sake of the Christians that are dying, open your purse. Fly a cargo full of armaments, send to the Nigerian military, send training instructors, let them embed with the Nigerian military as we are doing, expand the cooperation, truly and truly. And next time we hear of a precision strike, let us hear that 100 terrorists, XYZ amount, and let us see damage assessment. We are not this one we're looking for with binoculars.
Yeah, we're looking for that damage assessment. And there's a lot to deal with when it comes to it. But we'll take a break now. And when we come back after this break, we're going to stay home for a moment. The president has said when he presented the budget before the joint session of the National Assembly, he said to the terrorists and everyone that cares to listen, no more mercy. A few days later, one of his ministers said, if you bear arms and kill our people, you are a terrorist. We'll explore that conversation in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're talking national security. Onyekachi Adekoya, security consultant and the MD of Aquiline Intelligence and Defense Consulting, is my guest in our Lagos studio. Joining us in our Abuja studio is Major General John Enenche, retired. General, let me stay with you. The president has made a bold statement. He's been making a statement, but this time it looks like he's had enough. It's been had. Okay, maybe I'll come to you in just a moment. Let me come to you, Mr. Adekoya. Yeah. The president's statement, his words were, there will be no mercy come 2026. His Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, said, look, so that we're clear, what the president is saying, if you bear arms and kill people, you are a terrorist. That is, there's no ambiguity in nomenclature. Should that give us confidence? Is that something that we should build on to say, okay, now we're ready for the game?
Do you want the TV answer or you want the...
I want the real answer that will help our people. I think we're all tired of our people getting killed, whether they are Christians, Muslim, whatever. We just want people to stop being killed.
I think the president is making a political statement. What will change? The 10,000 additional civil defense he wants to employ, or the 20,000 additional military officers he wants to engage? That won't solve the problem. I've said repeatedly, and let me be on record as saying, and I know that the presidency, listen, I'm saying this for the 6th time on national TV, that Mr. President will fail on the issue of national security. It's not our plan or prayer that he should fail. He will fail on national security if he goes the same way with his predecessors. Issue of internal security is not the business of Mr. President. There are sub-national governments that should be dealing with these issues. The military has operation. I'm sounding like a broken record in over 31 states. You will see it. Once it happens, it has happened in Medigrid, the press statement will say they will surge resources. What it simply means is that you're going to deplete the resources from somewhere and send them. The 3D had, the theater had like 3 divisions. It's been thinned out. Even the divisions you have remained there has been further thinned out. So what is going to change exactly? They're saying that the terrorists, nothing will change until we hold the state governors responsible for insecurity at the state level. In
the words of Inye Sonwike, former governor of Rivers State, he said they are not chief security officers. They are just chief logistics officers.
Geoffrey, I beg to disagree. And that's not a correct, how will I put it now? That's not a correct patriotic statement to make. It's an insult on the intelligence of Nigerians. The president maintains control. The state governors have command. Any state governor in Nigeria that says he doesn't have command, he should resign as the chief security officer of the state and go back to his house. Will you employ a CEO of a company and he comes back and tells you that he cannot achieve results, but you are giving him Land Cruiser, you are paying him all paid expense leave, he has rating of 8, he flies business class, and then he cannot deliver?
Mr. Adekoya, let me bring in the general. General, I hope we can get you now. The same question I did ask Mr. Adekoya. President says there will be no mercy. A few days after, we've moved from guns to now IEDs, something we had forgotten. What does this say?
Say again, let me hear you again.
I was saying the president said there will be no mercy for terrorists next year. And just a few days after he made that statement, it's not just guns we saw this time. It's now IEDs being used in killing people in that mosque on Christmas Eve.
It's unfortunate, I will have to say that it is not the first time or new for us to see IEDs being used to kill people in all these insecure areas. So the president's comment statement still stands, because I know that all or most of the states, they are reviewing their security architecture at the various state levels. I am privy to that. And we are encouraging them to do that more aggressively down to the grassroots or to local government level. So it's going to be a gradual thing. The president's pronouncement is not, like I said before, it's not like an immediate thing that can happen in a jiffy, in a moment. 2 seconds, 1 day, 2 or 3 days. It will take a while, a short while, not long while. So there should be no mercy for any of our common enemy, whether a terrorist, a bandit, or whatever, because all of them, I was so happy when I saw the classification of terrorists up to about 31 on the list. Whether you are an informant or whatever, a terrorist, terrorizing people, aiding and abetting. So I believe strongly that from next year, as it is now, putting all efforts together at the state level, local government level, and then also leveraging on the psychological effect of what the cooperation between the United States of America and Nigeria has begun and started is going to be another ball game altogether next year. I believe that totally General, it can happen and it will happen.
Thank you so much, General. Apparently, we're fighting a battle of attrition, and the words of Onyekachi Adekoya, the governors must be involved. He says, else they resign. I didn't say it, he said it. Onyekachi Adekoya is a security consultant and the MD of Aquiline Intelligence Defense Consulting. Also, Major General John Enenche, who joined us from our Abuja studio, is a retired general. Thank you, sir. And thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
And that's it on the program. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeffrey Uzon. Bye-bye.